Thank you for coming. My name is George. I am a solution-focused practitioner and school counselor. I also happen to be a licensed professional counselor in the state of Virginia, which means I could have a private practice if I wanted to, but I enjoy working in schools. And this is a 25-minute presentation on a 6-hour training and a corresponding book that goes with it. So with all of this, it's going to come fast and furious, but I have a point. The point is that you can use the student's needs and the time you have available to determine how it goes and how you use solution-focused practice. So the agreements that you're all going to agree with, because they're the universal solution-focused things. Okay? If it's not broken, don't fix it. If it works, do more of it. And if it doesn't work, do something different. And the number one rule, first and foremost, you are awesome. Solution focus just helps you build upon that. Any practice you use, you are still awesome. Keep doing it if it's working. Hope. The number two thing and three thing are probably the most important for what you think of as solution focus. Be curious, not judgmental. And I circled that for a reason. We're going to come back to that. And also the focus is on what they want and need and their resources. You are a curious explorer. They are the experts. And this is also highlighted for a reason that I'm about to come back to. Whereas most therapists and counselors listen, then analyze, introduce, then teach, we do not. We listen, select, and build. Well, my path was a little unconventional because when I started, like many of you, you could only get trained from reading a book or doing something in person. So when I originally got trained, I did so from Brief, and because I was working in Moscow, Russia, and the school where I worked allowed me to go to London a bunch of times to get the training. And then afterward, I wanted to see people do it more. And the only people that sold packages for videos was Elliot Connie out of Texas. And then after that, COVID started, and Linda Metcalf, also in Texas, started doing some trainings. And then I got into interviewing people, and I decided, I want to get trained by a different group just to see how everybody else is doing it. And I got certified through EASD as well. So from 2015 to 2022, I studied 7 different branches of the solution-focused family tree. And I didn't even realize that was possible when I started because I thought there was one. I thought there was one way to do it. And the interesting part, the reason why I kept going is because my needs were not the needs of my trainers that put together the presentation. In American schools, it's not a 45 to 60-minute session usually. Usually it's 3 to 30. And you have to be able to do it quick and dirty. And you are constantly juggling things, being interrupted. You have 10 different hats on at once. And it's hard to remember. If I'm a pacifist with a bad temper, if I have a limbic spike, I cannot remember, I cannot think, and I needed something that worked for me and my needs because I'm not them. So what did I do? I SF'd it. So what does that mean? I walked through my own best hopes. And then I thought, okay, what do I really need? What do I really want? Here they are. And then after that, I thought, okay, what do I bring? Well, I know what I want at the end. I know exactly what it's going to look like. Everyone's successful and happy. But what works for me? Well, I already had a master's. I taught for 10 years. I already had a master's in curriculum. I was a track coach for 13 years. And I did a highly request. Sure. I did shot and disc, and it's highly technical. And in anything highly technical for both coaching and teaching, you need to break it into small, usable chunks that can be practiced and replicated. And then you put it all together. So the thing that actually influenced me the most was teaching and coaching, not counseling. And then I realized, yes, but the first thing that mattered most is I needed to tone my motor. And I needed to put myself first, just like they say on the airplane. I needed to be able to make sure I'm in a good place before I proceed. And then I go. And when I showed after I put together my whole package, because I do trainings and stuff too, I did show it to somebody who's kind of a luminary in the field who's been doing it for years. He's not one of my mentors, but he's a great guy. And he said, it's interesting, but it's too formulaic. And that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted something that could be easily segmented, practiced, and used in different lengths of time. So I actually looked at it as a compliment because it was exactly what I wanted. So, needed skills. I believe less is more. A lot of people have all these different things they have people practice. I really focus on nurturing your own curiosity through looking and listening. It creates the language. So I have more of a stripped down approach, and I'll explain that a little bit more. But you have to put on your own halo first. What does that mean? No, it's not that one. It's this one. It's an acronym. And that looks at it's a way that I check in with myself before meetings. And it just helps me tone my own motor so I'm not solution forced. Okay. And I never actually have to do this with students and parents, but I regularly have to do it with staff members. So if I tone my motor, check, how are you? Are you ready to go? Ready to look and listen? Okay. Like if I have to do a little breathing thing, whatever, then I proceed. Then what I try to get my students to do, we really work on solution focused looking, focusing on reframing, and solution focused listening, focusing on not knowing. And then with that, check their own halo because they have to do that for themselves and the people that they're working with to really listen, select, and build. And then for the actual other technical skills that I get into, there aren't many of them. I really find scaling wonderful for time constraints because it creates very clear, tangible pictures for all ages. And I really like it. And I use it regularly. I also teach the miracle question and the tomorrow question. And if you don't know the tomorrow question, the guys from Brief like to use the tomorrow question. It's basically the miracle question taking out the metaphysical wonderings. They really look at it's the same thing, but they use more natural progression and logic. And I have a place for both of these. That's why I teach both. And then after that, it's just DAP 360. And what is that? It's a way to really nurture your own curiosity and no, it's not, if you're a history buff, it's not that DAP. It's descriptions, actions, and people. Descriptions, it's the adjectives and the nouns. It's getting them to really create a clear picture through description. What are the first small signs? Where are you sitting when this happens? How is that different? And then it's asking, and this is, you could even have it up on your wall, DAP 360. And it's really to help you think, help them create a clear picture. And then the actions. How are you doing it? What will you be doing when? When you're at that free throw line and you keep sinking them, how do you stay calm? It's helping them really think about what they're doing when it's working. And then the people. Help them think about the major stakeholders. And it could be somebody they hate who's important for the situation, but it's usually more valuable if it's somebody they really care about, like their best friend or a parent or something like that. Okay, so all of that is pretty much what you do already. So I said from 2015 to 22, I did 7 different pathways, and I apologize because I'm giving you an 8th. And what I put together is what's wanted, what works, and what's next. And what's wanted now is your best hope. What's wanted later is the preferred future. What works is all your resources, all the good stuff that helps you maintain. What's next is look at all the good stuff you're doing. What tomorrow, when things are a little bit different, what'll be the first small signs? And you help them build forward. Now, the reason why I did this is because this is how teachers teach. This is how teachers lesson plan. I did this for 10 years. I could do this like the back of my hand because I had done it so much. It was fast, it was easy. And then when I learned solution focus, I was just like, why aren't I doing this with solution focus? It's what I'm already doing. It's easy because that's how you lesson plan. You have to think about what do you want now? At the end of the unit, what's it going to look like? What's working? What do they know now? And how do you build forward to the next steps? And so how do I start? Because I don't know how much time I'm going to have each time, I start right with the best hope because I have to. Okay. Then after we have something controllable that can lead to a positive emotional outcome, I leapfrog, use the miracle question to leapfrog over to the preferred future. Then we look at what works, what helps them be where they are, and what's next. And now the funny thing, I know what's next is not done by many people in the solution focused world, and if they do anything, it's tied to the preferred future. And the reason why I find this so important is because I have dealt with thousands of people that knew exactly what they wanted. They knew it very clearly. They knew what their strengths were, and they had no idea how to connect the dots. So helping them build the first step towards that preferred future is very powerful, tangible, and helpful. And the funny thing is, when I felt really proud of myself as I created this, I was also getting certified through YASI. And I saw a video from like 1992 of Insu Kim Berg, and she was doing a family session, and she followed this exact process. And I was just kind of like, well, Vince is doing it. At least I might be on the right track. Um, so, if you have 20 or more minutes, if you have a full session, like just the other day, after school, I had a family meeting, and if you have 20 to 45 minutes, like you do in each session, you just do all four of them. And that's what Insu did. And I start with the preferred future. Now, sorry, start with the best hope, and you start with the greeting, help them crystallize something. After you have it, use the miracle question to springboard over and help them build that 10. If you want to connect it to a 10, connect it to the 10. But do the miracle question, look at the first small signs, and then help them build what that looks like clearly. Then after you have a clear 10, you go over some of that, then you say, okay, where are you now on that 1 to 10 scale? They give you a number, and you say, well, how are you there and not one step lower? And you help them give you a clear picture to create what works. Then you use the tomorrow question. I do a variation, and I'll say, okay, I'll read back to them all the stuff they said that works. I'm saying, you're doing all this. Tomorrow, what number do you think you're going to be at then? And they think, then they'll give me a number, and I'll ask them, what will be that for with the first small signs? And then they'll go forward and we'll walk through it together. Now, that's listen and building. But what if you don't have that time? Okay, 10 to 20 minutes. In 10 to 20 minutes, what do you do? Where do you start? You do whatever builds their best hope. So you always have to start with the best hope, but if they have no idea what a hope is, you have to spend most of your time on that. But after you know what that is and you can move forward, if they have no idea what it'll look like when they're doing it and they have exactly what they want, you have to spend a lot of time on that. If they know those, but they have no clear picture of what they are succeeding in, you really have to hone that. You have to develop that. But if they have all those, but they have no idea where to start, you help them put together that picture. That when things are a little bit better, what's going on? What'll be the first small signs tomorrow? And you help them put forward the first step of the 1,000-mile journey. You follow their lead. Now, what if you have less than 10 minutes? Well, like any therapeutic approach, you can't rush ahead. You have to acknowledge, validate, and learn. You have to build that because otherwise you're solution forced and they feel pushed around. And then you pivot. And pivot where? Well, it depends what they've presented. Okay. If you're talking to somebody and they say, well, tomorrow I just have to get this done and I don't know, I can't do it. Say, well, okay. When you did it last time, what, like, say for example, I'm doing this and they tell you a class that they have a B in. Okay. If they have 3 Fs and 2 Bs and an A, something like that. You don't talk about the Fs. You ask them, okay, well, in your best class, name that best class, because you're probably going to know what it is already. What helps you do so well there? And then you have them give you 3 to 5 things or more that help them really do well in that. And then you say, okay, well, tonight, what can we take from that to help you be a success tomorrow? And then you just put together a quick idea. And with that, this right here can be done in 1, 2, 10 minutes. Okay. But it always starts with acknowledging and validating. Their resources and skills is just what you have to remember you're focusing on. And then you listen, select, and build. In the notes, you have these resources. I do have I don't have my YouTube channel on here. I have a free training package on YouTube. It's kind of dated now. I made most of the videos a couple years ago, but if you did Solution Focus Future on YouTube, you do the training module. I have a book on Amazon if you wanted to actually like dive into this a little bit more. It's the title is kind of a hard, it makes it harder to find because I gave it a bad title. But Solution Focus Trifecta, it's the first book there. It's a workbook and it gives you tons of prompts and walks you through all of this. And my question to you is, what do you think? Any ideas? Any things you want to share? Any questions, comments, or concerns? Wow, I really blew through it fast thinking that you guys would want to talk about it, and maybe I went too quickly. So for that, um, just want to say I love the amount of helpful tips, so thank you very much. Are there any
Give us a moment. No, don't go that quick away.
what's
Go
that,
on.
Cuddler?
Yeah, just give us some time. You
Okay,
wanted some comments and questions.
yeah.
Let's start somewhere. For instance, I'm totally impressed by your, I don't know what it is it persistency or what it is that you went to 7 different schools to learn the same? How
Yeah,
did
I'm
you do
nuts.
that? Can you tell more about that? How can someone come up with this?
I kept wanting to when I originally got trained at Brief, Evan George was great at helping me trying to streamline and strip it down for a school purpose. But what we do in schools here in the United States and international schools were very different than the UK schools because we don't have the same, we have different time constraints. So he helped me put together something that worked for me, but it wasn't a cookie cutter picture perfect thing for me. So I kept thinking that I'd hear about somebody else and then I'd say, oh, what do they have to offer? And so then so like Elliot, I only did his stuff because he was the only one that was selling videos. So, and then Linda, I did her stuff because it was tied to schools. And then when I learned about um, like Ben Furman and his skills stuff. I didn't really do any of his programs, but I talked to him about it and I interviewed him. And so I started to do a little bit of research on his skills. And then Arnold Hybers and his whole circle technique. I found that just interesting. It was just so different than anything I had learned. And then I knew that by this point, I had realized that all of them were different than what Steve and Sue did. So then, and the closest one that I could find that was more that I could get training from was Debbie Hogan in Singapore, and she could give me a ASTI certification. So I did a training with her. I did the 3 trainings with her, and fortunately, I was working at a school that offered professional development funds, so I took advantage of it. And I was working at 2 different schools and they offered over that time frame professional development funds. So I was like, hey, if I have free money, I'm going to use it selfishly. So I threw it at Solution Focus. If I was doing it on my own dime, I wouldn't have been able to do it all.
Hmm. Hmm.
Anybody have
I,
any ideas, questions?
yeah. Kathy.
I have a question because you mentioned you both appreciate the tomorrow question and the America question.
Yeah.
So what I would guess you don't use both in the same session, but you would
Well,
decide which one to use, and how do you decide?
I really use the miracle question mostly, but the tomorrow question I do a hybrid because I do them at different stages. Here, let me share my screen back because it'd be easy. I'm a visual guy and I can show you exactly what I'm talking about. Okay. So, if you go here, up here. Let's go. I'm sorry. I should have just scrolled there. Okay, so I use the miracle question to segue from my best hope to my preferred future. I always do that. Okay. And then I do a modified tomorrow question when I segue from what works to what's next. Okay, it's not exactly the tomorrow question, but it's definitely not a duplicate of the miracle question either. It's just more about the natural progression. Like when I originally started to do this, I would say tomorrow when you're one step higher. And then I realized that's dumb. What I wanted to do is just say, look at all this good stuff you're doing and what works. What are you going to be at tomorrow? And then they'll tell me a number. And then even if it's the same number, I'll say, well, what'll be the first small signs? What are you going to do to help you stay at that number? But almost always it's one or two numbers higher. And when I used to tell them when you're one number higher, I was dictating their path. When I would say, well, tomorrow, what number are you going to be at? But it would be after I would already list back to them all of the good stuff that they say that they're doing for what works. So it's a modified tomorrow question. It's not a true tomorrow question.
Okay. Thank you so much. This was very helpful.
Sorry if I didn't quite catch that, but I'm just curious then. So when you ask where are you going to be tomorrow, do you get they are in a hopeful state at that point, and they're not thinking that it's like too short. This is obviously like it's an open question, which then allows them to set that number. But do you feel like you often get can you tell me a bit more about like how you ask the question, how that response happens, and if you do get a response that is they haven't quite got to a point where they feel like there will be a change between today and tomorrow, then how do you move on from that?
Well, really, that's an excellent question. Thank you for asking, Felicia. For that, because it depends on the time constraints that I have presented. Like if I know I have 10 minutes before my next meeting and I have to help this kid or parent, it'll be different than if I have 45. Okay. So if I have more time, I give it more time to develop. But if I don't have a lot of time, then I do that truncated version that I talk at the end where I validate, but then look at what's working and then say, tomorrow when we can build on this, what's the first thing that is really going to be present? And then they'll tell me of the great stuff that they're already doing, which thing they really need to build for it. Or they'll say, well, I need to get this homework done. Well, what time are you going to sit down and do that then? And then they'll tell you the time and then say, okay, so what are you going to do next? And then they'll tell you next and then say, well, I know you need to be fresh tomorrow. So what time are you going to go to bed tonight? And so then you just help them put together a rough little schedule and then say, okay, well, how about you give me an update? How about you pop in and give me an update on how this went? Okay, well, when do you want to sit down? Well, and I have a sign up page that they can use. But it's all about really when you have shorter time, you just have to make sure you hit the best hope, then hit what works and segue over into at least one first step forward. And that's really what you do when the times are crunched. And I hope that helps.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I also realized that I'm supposed to put in the chat your next locations. I'll come back to that in a second. So let me copy that and I'll put this in the chat, but then we're going to come back and are there any other questions, comments, or concerns?
Yes, one more question. If
Would you
you
repeat the steps you
yes,
just outlined?
yes,
Excellent.
yes.
Thank you, Michelle. For the stuff I put, Michelle, you might not have been here at the very beginning. Let me put in the folder I dropped before we started. And if you look at the counselor notes document in that folder, it has the exact stuff that I walk through. The first page is blank. If you like it, the second page actually has prompts on the sides. But it's all what's wanted, what works, what's next. And what's wanted is the preferred future. So what's wanted now, what's wanted later. I'm sorry, what's wanted now is the best hope. What's wanted later is the preferred future. And then what's working now, what's next to connect the dots. So what's wanted, what works, what's next. And thank you.
Jeff has his hand up.
Jeff, what you
Yeah.
got for me?
Okay, so I also have a situation where I have time constraints on how much intervention I can do. I work in a crisis center, doing mental health counseling for people who a lot of times they're on mental health holds. They don't want to be there because they've had a suicide attempt or something like that, or they're at risk to themselves. So a lot of what I do, the most time consuming thing I do is integrated assessments. And these are so there's all these questions that I have to ask to
Yeah.
check off a bunch of boxes.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all problem focused questions. And when I ask those questions, I feel like I'm really sort of interrogating them rather than being of any help to them. And when I first started working in this job a few weeks ago, I was trying to weave in a lot of SFBT, but then I found if I do that, I can't keep up with my workload.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to cut out all of the questions I wanted to ask because I only had time to ask the questions that I have to ask.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got really discouraged about like, what am I even doing? I'm not helping anybody. Um, so I'm also trying to come up with my own system
Mm-hmm.
of how to at least um, get a little SFBT into it so that I'm not just problem focused with it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, if you have any suggestions about how
Sure.
to,
I have a couple. Now,
okay,
one, you're a saint because that job sounds tough. So thank you for doing
yeah,
it because they need you. So that's awesome. Um, if what thing for all of those questionnaires that have to do the what works approach, the what works segment, you can twist a lot of those things to focus on the things that help them sustain. So you can put a lot of the SFBT verbiage and looking at what I call DAP, the descriptions, actions, and people that help them maintain and success. You can embed a lot of that. John Hendon, he's an SF guy who actually has written a book on suicide prevention with SF. So his name's John Hendon. He's in the UK, but he is, and I know there's somebody else that did it too. I just know John because I interviewed him once when I used to have a YouTube channel, and but I'd recommend looking at how he does it because you might be able to blend some of the model that he follows in his practice, followed in his practice, at yours, and you could then bring it to your supervisors and then say, would this work? And but even if you can't, even with like I have to do the Columbia suicide, we have a stripped down version in schools, but because mine is stripped down, I can SF it. I can reword some of those. Um, but my thing, I have less, like I just refer out and I report back to the parents. You're crash care maintenance. So your situation, I would say the one area that would be extrapolated most to you would be what focusing on the resources, helping them think about what works, how do they keep going, how did they get up today, how did they get to where you are, get the descriptions, actions, and people and the resources. Even if they're at a 1 and a 10, they're there. How did they get there? And they're in your room talking to you. How? Oh yeah, Emma Burns, excellent. Emma Burns, she's done stuff with suicide prevention and done a lot with the police. She is in, I think she was in New Zealand, but then I saw her something about her in Australia. I'm not sure where she is now, but Emma Burns and John Hendon, I'd recommend do some search with suicide stuff and SF because they both have resources out there. I hope that helps.
yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. I realize some of you have to bounce. I don't. If anyone else has any other questions, I can stick around for a couple minutes. I did put in the chat the Padlet and the coffee bar link. So if anyone wants to stick around because you have some questions, throw them at me. Give me a holler right now. If you want to send me an email because you do have questions about something that occurs to you, I'm putting it in the chat. It's also on the notes that were in that folder. It's on the last 2 slides. But it's joegeorge.sff solution focused future at gmail.com. And thank you all for coming. I really appreciate your time and attention. And if anyone has something, shoot it at me now. I can say in the recording though, Catalin, I'm going to have to go back and watch it because there's a slim chance that you're actually in all the video, not me, because I couldn't have it focus on me. And I don't know if it was, this is the first time I've done it on this computer. So there is a chance that you are actually on every single slide.
Oh no. Oh
I don't know.
no!
I'll see it when I.
Then we put a piece of something on it.
I don't know.
I could see you all the time.
Okay,
I
well,
think
we'll see
you
how the
were all the
recording
time.
is. There's a chance that you actually might be on the recording, not me.
Then we put on something and we get the recording with your sound.
I don't know.
on
I
it.
personally would find it hilarious if they saw your picture and my voice the whole time. So we'll see.
But if you allow one more remark, or hopefully also a question is, you must be an expert on creating your own model. And I think this is something what SF actually is about, to learn to do what works beyond any model stuff.
I think we're all experts in our own way. I think everybody in this whole conference has so much to offer and bring to the table. I just want people to realize it doesn't have to be a one size fit all cookie cutter approach. And all the people who rely on those question lists, throw them out and come back to them in like 3 weeks after you've been just practicing the descriptions, actions, and people to build your own language. And then come back to those question lists to compare. I remember when I was first starting, I would be like constantly going back to the question list, and I'm a nosy little bugger. I wasn't nurturing my own curiosity and listening to them because I was so worried about the next question. And what helped me was actually throwing that out and really just helping them build through my own curiosity. And but doing it in a solution focused way to help them create a clear picture for themselves. And the reason why I came up with my own model is just because I needed something that I could chunk and build upon in a way that made sense to me. And this is what made sense to me. So, and because it's like an accordion style. I can make it longer or I can squish it down, and I can do anything in between based upon the time I have available.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. You're all wonderful. Thank you for all you do. I see some of you are still staying here, and I can't tell if you have questions or you're waiting for me just to close it. So I'll leave it open for another 10 seconds. And if anyone has a question, give me a holler. If not, you're all wonderful. Thank you for coming, and have a great weekend. I will question once. Oh, I will have questions once it's too late. That's funny, Felicia. Thank you. I appreciate it. That's never too late. Send me an email if you need to.
Thanks, I appreciate that, and I probably will.
Excellent, no problem.
Thanks again. A great session.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
You too.
Thank you.
And there don't seem to be any other questions, so I'm going to bid you adieu. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.